Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Dragon's Lair. My name is Brent. Today we are going to be doing something that I did not too long ago. It was something I talked about, maybe switching up a little bit, not just doing comics and toys, because I do have other things that I do like to do, as I am a big metalhead. I'm actually a Christian metalhead, which a lot of people say, Christian metalhead, what's that? I've heard that my whole life, basically. But I switched over from listening to basically all music to just Christian music, or mostly Christian music, around 1992-ish. Somewhere right around in there, I bought 3 cassette tapes, Mortification, Living Sacrifice, and Tourniquet. Gave my life to the Lord after listening to those albums, and I pretty much just went to all Christian, like metal, thrash, death metal, which that was my primary focus back then, hardcore. You know, I like the heavier stuff, heavier sounding stuff. But I actually overlooked a lot of like the rock bands and stuff. So now I listen to a lot more as I've gotten older. But I still love my death metal and thrash. But this video is just going to be going over some of the recent CDs and stuff I've added to my collection. Excuse me. I do have some magazines here too. As if you don't know like the Christian metal scene or anything like that, that got real big in the 80s, 90s. There was a magazine called Heaven's Metal that covered all the Christian bands or faith-based bands, stuff like that. And they just did a 40th anniversary issue, which they haven't really been too much in print over the last several years. But this is actually a flip. Sorry about my dogs, they're out here with me. Neighbors are out, so they're barking. But this is a flip issue. Got a little saint on the one side, a little bride on the other side. 2 old school Christian bands that are still putting out music, and it's good music in my opinion. So I am pretty happy with getting this little bride. Absolutely love Bride. It's a little Troy Thompson there. Excellent guitarist in my opinion. I don't know if there's any other posters in here or not. Maybe there is. I got this, but I haven't read it yet. It's in my to read pile. I don't see any other posters. That's probably the only poster in here. But like I said, 2 big bands on there, Bride and Saint. It's also got a little article on White Cross in there, if you don't know who White Cross is. I'll probably talk about them a little bit. But I did pick that up, and I also got some back issues of Heaven's Metal as I was ordering. I don't know what site it was. I don't know. Doug Van Pelt, who was the editor of Heaven's Metal, he was putting stuff out, and I got on there and just ordered some stuff. But I do collect like the Heaven's Metal magazines, and there was like 7 Ball, and I can't remember all the names of all of them. There was a bunch of different Christian magazines. I got a good magazine box full of them. But I am going for all the Heaven's Metal magazines I can get when I find them and stuff like that. So I did pick up a couple of the back issues on there. This one has Eternal Right on it. And if you flip it over, it has Once Dead on the back. Which, if you don't know Once Dead, that was Vengeance Rising guys reforming under that. I think if you know Christian metal, you probably know all this. But for those who don't know. And then I also got this Heaven's Metal. This is issue 87. I didn't read the previous issue. This has the Rex Carroll band on there. If you don't know Rex Carroll, he's a shredder. Usually when they rank like top Christian guitarist, he always comes in second behind Phil Keaggy. He was mostly known for his work with the White Cross, which they were very similar to like Rat, if you liked Rat back in the day. But he's a shredder and a half. I always tell everybody, if you like Eddie Van Halen, check out, Rex Carroll, because it's somewhat similar style, basically. Anyways, if you don't know, Heaven's Metal eventually changed their name to HM, which is hard music, I guess. I don't know why they did. I like Heaven's Metal sounding name better myself. But this one has Impending Doom on it. I'm a big Impending Doom fan. If you don't know Impending Doom, they're like a deathcore band. Brooke Reeves, absolutely love him. Seen him several times live. Always put on a great show. Very, very cool. Like I said, I haven't looked at any of these magazines yet. And of course we have this one. I don't see the issue number. I'm not going to look for it. But this has one of my favorite bands ever, Living Sacrifice. If I had to rank my top favorite bands ever, it'd probably be Tourniquet, Living Sacrifice, and Mortification. As they are the 3, like I said, back in, it was like at the end of 92. I bought 3 cassette tapes. It was Living Sacrifice, Non-Existent, Tourniquet, Stop the Bleeding, and Mortification, Scrolls of the Megaloth, which I grew up in a Christian home anyways, but, you know, I mean, I knew the Bible. I learned all that stuff in Sunday school and stuff like that. But they were the 3 albums that really gave me the big push, the decision to accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. I still follow him to this day. So, poster in there. Greg Minier from The Crucified, or however you say his name. I love The Crucified too. But that's all the magazines I got. And, you know, it was mostly just to get that 40th anniversary issue. But I did grab the 4-pack of Lust Control CDs out of there, which I think I have 1, maybe 2 of these already. But I just grabbed the 4-pack. It was just cheaper to get the 4-pack. But if you've never heard of the band Lust Control, that had Doug, who's the editor of Heaven's Metal magazine. It had one of the guys from One Bad Pig. I don't know all the guys' names that were in it. I can't remember off the top of my head. I knew it one time, but they were in a band called Lust Control, which preached against or sang and preached against you know, lust and stuff like that. And, Maya, stop. And stuff like that, and they promoted abstinence. And please stop. But anyways, I picked up their 4 CDs. They were voted like worst band of the decade in the 90s. But I absolutely love them. This is Lust Control Feminazi. Absolutely love this album. I always love the album cover. At one time they said there was only maybe like 10 or 12 of these feminazis in the world, but I don't know. Seems like there's a lot more of them these days. I don't know. Could just be me. I don't know. Next up we have We Are Not Ashamed, Getting It Right the Second Time. Very, very cool album. I had all these like cassette tapes back in the 90s. Next up is Tiny Little Dots by Lust Control, which I do have this album. I know this is one of the ones I have, which I told James I might just give it to him. He's a big punk fan. And then we also have Dancing Naked by Lust Control. Great, great album. Great, great songs. These are fun songs. This is great punk rock in my opinion. But some people don't like it. I love it myself. Then next up, which all we have left is CDs here, so I did order a couple CDs off the Sharon Collective. If you don't know the Sharon Collective, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. He ran Pluto Records back in the 90s. I think his name's, I can't remember his name. He's on my friends list on Facebook, but my memory's shot anyways. But this is before there was Rosalind with this album Hypocrites, and it is probably very hard to see. That black and gray font, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that. Then we also got Hospital, which before there were Rosalind was more like a hardcore band. Hospital was more kind of like rapcore rock. But I picked those 2 albums up. And then we do have some single stuff here, just stuff that I picked up randomly. Next up is Under the Blood with Narrow Road. This is a newer Christian rock band. Picked it up. Definitely like it. Very, very cool band. Check them out. They are a newer band. Then we also got Moth Altar with the album Union. I did play this album. Currently, the only CD player I got's in my vehicle because my disc changer just keeps popping my discs out. So I probably got to get a new CD player in my room. But so my listening to music has kind of dwindled down a little bit recently. I don't dare put my CDs in there because I don't want them getting broke. But this is more of like a hardcore metalcore band. Very, very cool band. Very current band. Great album. I've listened to it 4 or 5 times already. Loved it. Next up we have another band. One of my favorites. This is Rusty Ship with Capsized Empire. I would highly recommend Rusty Ship. Definitely has like more of a, I guess you could say like 90s sound, like kind of like Nirvana-ish at times sound, which this is autographed. He sent me a message. He sends me a message every time he puts an album out, sees if I want to like crowdfund it or whatever. And I think when he was doing this, I think I was broke because my plant, we just like closed the doors. But then before he officially released it, he sent me a message and said, "Hey, we got the CD. Do you want to get in on this before we release it?" So I just ordered it off him. Super cool dude, super cool music. Absolutely love it. It's got more of a nautical theme to it, but it's like I said, it's got like a Nirvana-ish sound. Sometimes you listen to it and you're like, "Hey, that sounds a lot like Nirvana," you know, or that like grunge. I wouldn't call it grunge, nautical rock maybe, but Very, very cool album. He's probably got 4 or 5 albums out there. Definitely somebody to check out. Next up, now this band is not a Christian band. This is Big Handsome with Olive. I actually saw these guys. My nephews play in a band called Feverton. It's a punk band, not a Christian band. But they had like 4 or 5 bands at the vocalist Grandma's house. That's what he called it, live at Grandma's house. And this was one of the bands there. Loved their sound. For the most part, their music was clean. I think they cussed in a couple songs, which, you know, it's not a big deal if they do anyways. You know, I'm not going to crucify a band for cussing. You know, there are other things that, you know, require more attention than somebody cussing, in my opinion. You know, there's people out there homeless and starving, and, you know, there's other things you could throw a fit about than somebody cussing. But like I said, not a Christian band, but they are, I'd say, more of like a modern rock, new metal type style, somewhere in there. Maybe a touch of hardcore in there, as they do scream a little bit. Next up, I swear, my dogs. I should have took them inside. They hear a vehicle coming up the road or something, coming up the driveway. Next up, we have Dreaded Dale with Pumpkin Spiced Christcore. This is pure hardcore, or Christcore as they put it. Kind of like the spirit-filled hardcore. Absolutely love the album cover. That is so, so cool. Very, very cool. Dreaded Dale. You can look them up on Facebook. They'll respond to you real quick. Very cool band. Next one up is one I got at Goodwill. I remember having it back in the 90s, but, you know, like 2001, I like purged my CD collection because I never listened to music then because my family took all my time, that and work. So I kind of like purged my collection down, and I got rid of almost everything. So I've been buying it back over the years. I'm like over 3,000 CDs now, but this is one of the bands. This is Fold Zandura. Which this album, I don't know, if it's your style, cool. It's not my style. It's not a very good album. It's more like electronic. If you don't know, it's one of the guys from Mortal. Maybe it's both the guys from Mortal. I liked Mortal when they were like an industrial metal band. So, I don't even see their names on here. So it's got Gyro and Jerome, which I think they were both from Mortal. I think. So it is just Mortal rebranded, basically. But it's more electronic. It's not my cup of tea, but I did buy this at Goodwill. It was only a couple bucks. Just to put it in the collection. Not a big deal. I love Mortal, but that one's just kind of, I don't know, is what it is. Next up, we have Dawn Breaking with Stricken. This was a band I had never heard of. Guy that runs New Metal for Christ on Facebook. He messages me all the time, sending me links to bands and stuff like that. He knows I collect CDs. So he sends me, when he finds a band that especially I've never heard of, he always sends me a link if he finds it for sale somewhere. And that was up on Amazon, so I bought it. Kind of like rapcore, new metal. Alright, band. I didn't mind it. Next up, we have a CD I picked up yesterday. This is John Schlitt, Unfit for Swine. This is just rock, pop rock, probably. I probably listened to it back in the day, but I don't remember it. He was the vocalist for Petra. And I know my brother had it, and I listened to everything my brother had, but I just don't remember exactly the sound of that. It's probably pop rock or whatever, you know, rock, hard rock maybe. But it's John Schlitt, it's Petra, so, you know, why not? I do like Petra, so. Next up, we have a band I'd never heard of. This is Here I Come Falling, O Grave, Where Is Thy Victory? I'd never heard of this band, and I saw somebody had posted it on one of the Christian sites on Facebook, and they said, anybody remember this band? And I was like, oh, that's cool. So I looked them right up on Amazon, 1 CD on there, 1 or 2, I don't know. So I just ordered it. Definitely hardcore, you know, good music in my opinion. Next up, we have 3 CDs that I ordered off Broken Curfew Records, which some of them are, they do partner with Rottweiler Records. This is, first up we have Seth Matoyer, Through the Vanishing Point. I've never listened to this album, so I could not tell you. I want to say it's like rock, hard rock, new metal maybe, modern rock. Looked cool. It sounded kind of cool when I listened to it. You can listen to it on Bandcamp. You can go on there, click on a song, listen to it, and see if you want to order it or not. So that's where I did order these, was off Bandcamp. So Next up, boy, if I could read the name. This has Come to Pass. Maya, stop. Sorry about my dogs. This has Come to Pass with Splitting Shadows. A very, very cool cover. I want to say this was like, see, it's hardcore or deathcore somewhere in there. And when I say hardcore, it could be a metalcore band, but I'll call it hardcore. I don't care. You know, it's all core. So cores are related to me, in my opinion. And the last one we got off the Rottweiler / Broken Curfew Records was King's Hammer to Speak in Tongues, which I believe this was a solo project. One guy played everything, did it all. It's like a 5-song EP. Very, very cool. Hardcore, deathcore, whatever. And next up, I got a sticker in here. So I went to a festival called Signal Boost up in Endicott, which is pretty cool. Got to see some bands I didn't see. Got a little sticker here. I'm not sure how it's supposed to go. I think maybe like that. I don't know. I think it goes like that. That's Gratitude TX. Very, very cool hardcore metalcore band from Texas. I did buy one of their t-shirts, which I am representing. This is a Plea for Purging t-shirt if anybody wants to know. But I did buy one of their long sleeve t-shirts for Gratitude TX, which has like the Goosebumps theme on it. It's a very, very cool shirt. Very, very cool band. I will say the vocalist, he came right down. He was out in the pit running around. Guitarist came down. He was wearing a Bucky's Bucky Beaver full costume. He was out running around the pit playing his guitar, just running in the circle pit and stuff like that. So that was actually pretty cool. But they didn't have any CDs, but I did get this sticker and a t-shirt from Gratitude TX. So that was pretty cool. But as I was buying that stuff, I was talking to the vocalist from Gratitude, and I told him, you know, how I collect CDs, and I said, man, I wish I had a CD. And he said that is a plan to put out CD and cassette tapes. And after I got done talking with him, I went and checked out the next merch table, which had a band called The Season. I'd never heard of them, and I actually got to the festival just a little bit late, so they were like the opening band, and I only got to hear like a minute of them playing, so I caught like the last minute of their set. And he heard me talking about how I collect CDs and stuff like that, and he actually gave me their CD, just in a little flimsy little thing. So I mean, it's nothing big, just a little CDR. But that was pretty cool that he gave it to me. I don't know if he was asking money. I was willing to pay for it, but he just said, "Yeah, go ahead and take it." He said, "That's awesome. Listening to me talking to him over there." So that was pretty cool. They were more of a rock band, I believe. Next up, we got the new one from Magdalene Rose, The Heart That Bloomed After Death. If you don't know Magdalene Rose, she was one of the sisters in the band GFM, Gold, Frankincense, and Myrrh. They played Beauty Core, so they all disbanded. The one sister that played drums, I don't think she's doing anything. The other sister, CJ, is in Morning Eve, which they were at that show too, and they played a killer set. They actually have a female vocalist who does clean vocals, and then they have another guy that growls, and that guy, I don't know what his name was, but man, he had some of the cleanest growls I've ever heard. It was just killer set from Morning Eve. Definitely recommend that band. But I highly recommend Magdalene Rose if you like ladies who scream. 100% screamer. She does clean vocals too, but very, very cool. And yes, you hear the neighbors. Apologize for the dogs. Sorry about that. And then out of all the bands there, I mean, at this festival there was The Protest was there, which I have all but their first like EP, demo EP or whatever. Behold the Beloved was there. Matt Sassano was there. Trying to think of who I'm missing. There was another band from New Jersey. I can't remember their name, but they didn't really have much merch. I forgot their name. Oh, it's called Signal. I think Signal Boost. You can look it up on Facebook. Stop. But anyways, there was another band there. This was a rock band called Mr. Weaverface. Weird name. I mean, this is pure like 80s rock. My wife would tell you it sounds like spandex music to her. I know, you hear the neighbors. She doesn't like 80s rock or anything because it just sounds like spandex to her, and she hates spandex. But this was pure like 80s sounding rock. Absolutely loved the band. I thought it was very, very catchy. Absolutely loved it. And they had 2 CDs. That one was called Jesus is Live. And this one is called These Lungs, which I have a card from them in it too. Mr. Weaverface. Very, very cool band. Sang about Jesus. I mean, it's like 80s rock in my opinion. Got a little card from them if you want to check them out. I don't know if they're on Facebook. Maybe they are. They do have a website on here. But if you could see that, if you can't, I am sorry, but definitely check out Mr. Weaverface if you like 80s rock sound. Put that card back in there so I don't lose it. And now we're getting to the last part of the video, which this came from Boone's Overstock. Gotta get me a little drink here. Today's episode is brought to you by Dr. Pepper. Not that they'll sponsor me, man. Thirsty. Which Boone's Overstock was having a $5 sale. So I went and ordered a bunch of stuff, as whatever stuff he had on sale. Which I don't think it was, I don't know if it was all Boone's. I think he's got Boone's, he's got Retroactive. He's got a couple different labels and stuff like that. But he does a lot of remastering of albums. I think he puts out newer bands. I could be wrong on that. But he does a lot of remastering older albums that, 80s stuff that, considered basically classics today. 80s, 90s, and even some of the stuff into the 2000s, because some of that stuff is just so hard to find because, some of the bands didn't print a lot of the CDs. But I got, I don't know, probably a good 20-some CDs off. My brother ordered some too, and we actually ordered some of the same CDs, and when they shipped the order, they just checked off as they put everything in there, and they didn't put the double copies of the 3 albums that me and my brother both ordered, so he ended up refunding my money. Told me I can reorder them again, I guess. Is what it is. But we're just going to get into these real quick. These are all still Shrunk Rap. I haven't had a chance to listen to them. Some of them I have heard back in the day. Some of these are bands I loved back in the day, still love today. Oh, excuse me. First up, we got One Bad Pig. This is Ice Cream Sunday. Very, very cool album cover. This is a remastered album, which I don't know if it says on there what year they put the album out. This was late 80s, early 90s. I know that. Somewhere in there. One Bad Pig. This was punk rock. Pure punk rock from the 80s, 90s. And we have One Bad Pig, a Christian band, which I want to say this was their demo. Demo put on CD. It says 1986 Porky's Demise Records. That's kind of funny. So this is a re-release of their original demo. One Bad Pig, a Christian band. Very, very cool. Next up is Godman, Hypostatic Union. I've never listened to this. I'm not even sure who's on this album. It's one of the... Might be a one-man project. I'm not sure. But very, very cool. I know... I'm familiar... If it's just a one-man project, he's a guitarist, too. I'm familiar with the stuff because he was in, This World Will Burn or something similar to that, I believe. I could be wrong. Who knows? Getting old. I'll be 50. I'm forgetting half of the stuff. Can't memorize stuff like I used to as a kid. Getting too old. Next up we have A Hill to Die Upon. This is Omens. This is more of a death metal, Total Brutality. Very, very cool. Next up we have some remastered versions of the band Jerusalem. I want to say they were out of Sweden, if I remember right. I know I never listened to them back in the day. This is their album, Volume 2. I never once listened to them back in the day, but my brother actually, I don't know, a couple years ago, bought one of their CDs off Brent Miller. He does a new and used Christian website called Brent's Christian Rock Metal or something like that. And shout out to Brent there. Super cool guy. I actually order off him all the time. My brother actually ordered one of their CDs, and I listened to it, and I was like, dang, this is actually good, 80s, I consider 80s metal, late 70s, early 80s metal. But most people today would hear it. That sounds like rock. It was metal back then, in my opinion. I don't know, maybe it was rock back then, but it sounds like 80s metal to me. But like I said, this is Jerusalem Volume 2. I believe they were from Sweden. I could be wrong. If you want to correct me, go for it. And this is Volume 1. These are all remastered. So this was originally released in 1978. Absolutely love the guitar on there. Sorry if I'm getting a glare, I am outside, so. Next up is Jerusalem, Can't Stop Us Now. Very 80s-ish looking. This was released in 83. Almost looks like it'd be like a Van Halen cover or something. Very, very cool. I don't think I've ever listened to that album. And we also have Live in the USA and His Majesty's Service from Jerusalem. Originally released in 1985. I don't know how many albums they have, but I have 4 of them now, so that's very, very cool. Next up we have a pop punk band called Value Pack. This is Incognito. This is one of the few that I was actually missing from Value Pack. They only have like 3 albums, which they were on Tooth and Nail originally. I believe it was Tooth and Nail. It was either no, Solid State was their heavier side, but Tooth and Nail Records actually released, I think, the first 1 or 2 Value Pack albums. So that is like pop punk if you like punk, which I love punk. Next up we have Final Acts, the Acts of the Apostles, which this is originally a 2005 release. This is remastered in 2023. This is like 80s metal. If you like 80s metal, right up your alley. Great album in my opinion, which I have listened to Final Acts. So next up is another album I've never listened to. This is Rex Carroll and the Bleed, Take Back a Life. Like I said, Rex Carroll was a guitarist for White Cross back in the day, and he's done several other projects. King James, he had like a blues band, the Rex Carroll Band. Absolute shredder, absolutely love him. One of my favorite guitarists ever. Talking too much, I gotta get another drink. Starting to stutter or something, I don't know. But I highly recommend anything Rex Carroll. Yes, you hear the neighbors. Sorry about the dog. Next up is we have some, these are re-releases too, I believe. Which I never got them back in the day. I want to say they were on either Tooth and Nail or Solid State, I want to say. But this is Blessed by a Broken Heart, Pedal to the Metal. Which I believe they only released 2 CDs. So I grabbed them both. And I can't remember, I want to say they were like either metal or hardcore. Maybe metal, I don't know. I haven't listened to them in probably 10 years, so, because I didn't have the CDs. It was just when I'd come across them on YouTube or something or whatever. And then we also have Blessed by a Broken Heart, All is Fair in Love and War. They're in the collection now, so I'm pretty happy. And then next up I have almost all their albums now. I'm only missing a couple. Like I said, I had most of them back in the day. Well, back up to 2000-ish, I had most of their albums. I think I had all their albums up to 2000. This band, at least, before I purged my collection. But this is Deliverance. If you don't know Deliverance, stop. Hey, stop. If you don't know Deliverance, early on they were like a speed metal band. A lot of people compared them to like Metallica and stuff like that, which, from what I understand, they didn't like that or whatever, and eventually they, changed their style up. They still stayed like a metal sound for the most part, their whole career. They just, got away from like the speed metal, more or less. But I love all their stuff, so. But we got the Intense Records presents Deliverance Live. Very, very cool. Absolutely love this album. Which they actually do, they do a cover on there. Which song was the cover? Surrender? I don't remember. Surrender. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I've listened to this because I haven't had it in my collection. When I had this in my collection before, it was on cassette tape, so I haven't had it. I haven't listened to this since probably the 90s. So, but very, very cool to have that in my collection. And we also got Live at Cornerstone Fest 2001. I've never listened to this album. Very, very cool. I'd highly recommend Deliverance. If you like speed metal, whatever, highly recommend them. I'm sure somebody will correct me on all the stuff I'm saying wrong on here, but that's cool because, I forget half this stuff anyways. Next up we have Exalt Under the Ruins. There's another metal band, which this had to be released back Late 80s, early 90s, I'd imagine. 1990. Originally released 1990. This is just a metal band. Very, very cool band. Absolutely love them. Next up, which we're almost done here. Next up, we have 2 CDs from Eternal Decision. Which Eternal Decision, I have one of their albums already. I never had the originals, but I had bought one of them somewhere. I don't remember. Maybe off Brent's list or something like that. But they're very reminiscent of like Metallica, if you like Metallica. But we have Eternal Decision 3. I believe that's 3. ED3. See, none of these are opened up. Sorry about my dogs barking. And we also got Eternal Decision, Ghost in the Machine. Sounds like somebody's revving a motorcycle up there, so my dog's very territorial. Next up, we have one of my favorite bands from England. This is Detritus. This is If But For One. Classic thrash album, in my opinion. I absolutely love this album. I love this album more than their first full-length album. A lot of people like the first one better, but I love this album. This was my first intro into them back in the 90s, which I still have my original CD that I bought back in like 93 from them, which this was released in 92. It said Detritus. It's hard to read it. Very, very cool logo there. Detritus. You can see the logo better on the back. Very, very cool. They put out 2 albums, which this one actually has their demo on it, I believe. Yeah, bonus demo tracks on there. That's why I wanted to get this one. Which I have their other two CDs, the original CDs, but I've never heard their demo version or anything like that, so that was kind of cool. Looks like some of their demo songs were on this album, so that's pretty cool either way. But highly recommend that band. They got back together a few years ago and put out an album called Myths, I believe, or something like that. So very, very cool band. Still a metal thrash, really. More thrash than anything, in my opinion. But very, very cool. And then we also got Bride, Eyes Wide Open. If you don't know Bride started off way back in like early 80s as The Matrix. Eventually became Bride. They were just hard rock, heavy metal band. Of course, they did change with the times, you know, as grunge got more popular. They changed their styles, went into the grunge, new metal, modern rock, and all that stuff. Which after a while, these guys are older guys now. They packed it up, said they had enough or whatever, and then about, 6-7 years ago, the vocalist Dale and Troy are brothers in this band. And Dale just got back in and started like doing tracks and stuff for several bands. And then Bride decided, hey, let's do it. And he got back with Troy, and they put out, like 3 or 4 albums since then or something like that. But very, very cool. Very happy with that. We got just a handful left. Next up is White Ray. This is the Collected Works. So this has their 88 demo, 89 demo, 90 demo, and 91 demo. Which, if you've never heard of White Ray, eventually they became Killed by Kane. And Killed by Kane was signed by REX Records. But this was Killed by Kane before they were Killed by Kane. So I have never listened to those early versions. But I do like the Killed by Kane versions. And we have 3 CDs left, and these are all by the same band. First up, we have Bloodgood's self-titled album. This was originally released in, I believe, 86. 86 on Frontline Records. This was actually the first album I had ever heard from Bloodgood. I bought the cassette tape back in like 93. It was sitting at the Christian bookstore. I was freshly saved or whatever, I guess you could say. And I bought it, and I remember listening to this, and I absolutely love the band. Songs like Accept the Lamb, Killing the Beast. I loved the song Killing the Beast, but I absolutely love this album. A lot of people said this wasn't a very good album, but I loved it. A lot of people go for their second album, which is Detonation, I believe. I think that's what it's called. I could be wrong. But that's a killer album too. But I'm very happy to have that CD finally in the collection. And to be honest with you, I didn't like a lot of... This case is busted. This one was open. I didn't like their newer stuff in the 90s as much. It was more like rock. And like I said, I don't know. I was more into like death metal, thrash, speed metal in the early 90s. Especially when I got saved. Especially like the hardcore too. So, you know, a lot of the stuff that was rock, it's like, yeah, it was okay, but I didn't want to hear it, sadly. You know, I'm older and wiser now. So I never got into their, you know, newer stuff into the 90s and stuff like that. Which I don't even know. This one's the even newer album. This is released in 2013, and I still hadn't heard it. This is Bloodgood's Dangerously Close. But like I said, I never got into their stuff after like their first 2 albums. That's all I ever listened to back in the day. And, you know, I just haven't had a chance to get their CDs. Got a little cool collector card in there. If you don't know, they're remastering these CDs and putting collector's cards out with some of them. So I do have that Bloodgood card now. Which, if you don't know, the founder of the band was Michael Bloodgood, who's the bassist for the band. He died a few years ago. Which the vocalist Les is still going around singing, you know, singing Bloodgood songs, which, you know, honor Michael, you know. Very, very cool band, you know, pioneering the Christian metal scene, in my opinion, you know, which I didn't give them enough love back in the day. And anyways, lastly, we have Bloodgood's Metal Missionaries. This was their demo, I believe, re-released demo, originally released in 1985. So I'm guessing this is like the raw recording, raw demo sound. So that is pretty cool. Songs like Awake, Accept the Lamb, Anguish and Pain, Battle of the Flesh, Black Snake, Awake, Man in the Middle, and then there's an interview on there. But very, very cool either way. Sorry if this is a longer video. I'm actually very passionate about music. I will talk your head off about music and stuff like that, especially Christian bands or Christian related bands. Which doesn't mean I don't listen to bands that aren't Christian bands. I do listen to some bands that aren't Christian bands. I just tend to stay away from the bands that just cuss like sailors, which I don't have a problem if you want to cuss or whatever, so don't. Some people just go crazy with that. You want to cuss, that's your choice, you know, but, you know, I get sick of hearing too much of it after a while. That's just me, you know. I don't feel I need to hear it, you know, or whatever, or even use it, so I don't cuss or anything like that. But I do listen to a lot of bands. I don't want to hear like bands singing about getting drunk or going out and getting laid and doing drugs and stuff like that. And that's just not for me. And it's not just that I'm a Christian that I listen to Christian music, but it's actually got just a better message in my opinion. Even if they're just a Christian band not singing about God, just singing about topics that, you know, everyday life. I mean, that speaks volumes to me personally. So like I said, Christian music holds a very, very special place in my heart. Maya, please. And I will talk your head off about music all day long and tell you bands you should check out. Sorry about my dogs. Well, anyways, you know, this video is getting on to be about 40 minutes now. Been a long video. If you like Christian metal or rock, thrash, death metal, hardcore, metalcore, deathcore, punk, praise and worship, whatever, hey, comment on there and let me know. Maybe we can talk some music or something sometime. Hope you guys liked what you saw. Hope you liked the video. You know, like, comment, subscribe. It's all cool. It's all good. Thanks for watching.